Hi guys, it's Blackie. Okay, someone asked in my recent haversack video, I talked about my emergency shelter kit that I was transitioning from and going to a poncho instead. And they asked about the emergency set. Could I show that? I don't use this right now. I still have the kit, but I will show you how it's put together. Now what it consists of is a reusable emergency space blanket, and you know what those are. On all of the grommets, I've put a piece of bank line, about a 6-inch loop hanging off. I have one of the big thick drum liners like this laid down on top of it. I have a 20-foot of paracord ridge line that I've tied a big loop in one end and a small loop in the other. The big loop's on top, so when I pull it out, I just go around the tree, go back through itself and pull it tight. Then I go make a trucker's hitch on the other side, cinch it up tight. Why the extra loop? In case I need to add something, I can instantly hook to that loop and go, as opposed to sit there and having to tie knots. Okay? And I carry 4 of the ultralight titanium type stakes, and I carry 2 of the Woodman's Prusik or Tarp Prusik knot that I've talked about quite a few months ago. Except these are made out of bank line and not made out of paracord. And I'm going to show you how to tie that at the end of the video. So, let me show you how I hook up the ridge line and how you hook up the tarp with the Woodman's Prusik or Tarp Prusik, and we'll go from there. Stay with me. Now I've got my ridge line right here, and that loop, like I said, on the end is big enough for me to come up and pass the whole bundle through, just like that, to pull it tight. Now I go to my other tree and tie it on. Okay, now I've got my ridge line up nice and tight. Now I'm going to go to the Tarp Prusik, or as I call it, the Woodman's Prusik knot. Now what this is a loop with a toggle on it. We're going to create a Prusik with this. It's got a toggle to make it easy to attach to a tarp. So, come up to the line. We go around 3 times. 1, 2, and finally 3. Now, making sure our knots line up, pull it down nice and snug, and now we've got a knot that we can slide when it's not under tension, but once it is under tension, it bites. Let me get my tarp. Now on these emergency space blankets, these grommets are really small, and so getting paracord, you have to run it straight through, and etc. By doing it this way, I form a loop. I stick that loop up through the grommet, and then I take that toggle I tied, come over the top and put it halfway through, and then pull, just like that. Now it can't pull, the loop cannot pull this toggle through that grommet. Now I can adjust just like that and slide up and down to wherever I need to go. Real simple. This one's about that. Okay, as you can see, this grommet has had it. I mean, it's just, I can't even take it lightly with my fingertips, it's just coming out. These emergency space blankets do degrade over time. Now this is my brown one that's had it, it wore out. But as you can see, right there with that grommet, all you gotta do is just do like that, and it comes right out. There's no tension, no something. This edge is the only thing that's holding it, really. So you really want to wrap around and pull to that edge rather than to the actual grommet. Okay, as you can see, that tarp, that emergency space blanket is an old, wore-out one. This one that I have right here is new. These things do decay and do degrade. That is quite typical of a lot of this ultralight stuff. It's not meant to last. whether you use it or not. Once you take it out of that package, it begins over time to degrade. How quick, how fast, that's your climate, your environment, how it's stored. This one that I was showing that's basically rotten, I use it as a ground cloth, mostly, just something to spread out to sit down on. It's got so many holes in it anyway. But I've had it about 6 or 7 years, something like that, and it was used when I got it. So I don't know the exact age of it. All the grommets have pulled loose on it. And you really need to take really good duct tape and reinforce your grommets, and then put it out if you're going to use it as an emergency set. Now, let me show you how to tie the bank line Woodsman's Prusik or Tarp Prusik. Start with your bank line, and you want to get on the end and tie 2 knots, just simple overhand knots. One, pull it tight, and then going uphill, tie a second one, and pull those 2 down tight together so this becomes a stop knot. Okay? Now, we're going to daisy chain. Hold on, my tarp took off. Sorry about that, a little bit of a breeze, and it took off. So, now, let me get you a little bit closer, and I'll show you how I tied this knot. Stay with me. Okay, we got my 2 stop knots. Now we're going to daisy chain. How you daisy chain is you make a loop. See, just a loop. Now you take the long end, you fold a loop, and you stick it through the first loop. Pull it down tight. Pulling on the loop that just came through, like you're making a little noose. Then you scoot it down, take the next one, do it again. Each time you pull it tight, you're pulling that loop that you previously made down tight against this. Slide down, do it again. Just keep grabbing and bringing up a loop. Go through, pull it down tight, take up the excess, go through. I know, stunning, exciting commentary. But you're going to do this till you get about a 3 or 4 inch long piece. This is going to become the toggle for the bank line to keep it from being pulled back through the grommet. Now you could easily just simply tie these knots in a piece of paracord and then hook the bank line to it. There's several different ways, but the bottom line is you're forming a toggle. Something that's going to be too big and thick to come through the grommet once I create it. Now I know you don't see much, but I'm just forming a loop and pulling, forming a loop and pulling. You see how it's starting to form a thicker piece. That's the idea. A daisy chain. Now the daisy chain is a good way to carry paracord and stuff like that, because when you grab the end of it and pull it, it unrolls again. Thus I can take a 10-foot piece of paracord and turn it in just a couple inches long piece like this, and I go and have a long piece again. But it doesn't bind up or tangle up like trying to carry 10 feet of cord in your haversack. Now, when you've got one like this, a couple inches long, you're going to take that last loop, you're going to go through it, and then you're going to take that toggle and go through it. Now you're going to pull everything up tight. This will form a knot at the end of your toggle, like that. So now you have a clean line coming out of it and the toggle itself. Now, give yourself 6 or 8 inches, something like that. You want to come right here and you want to do a simple overhand tie another double stop knot. So that between that knot and the bottom of your toggle is about 6 or 8 inches at least. That's what you're going to use for your going through your tarp, guy line, etc. Okay, I've got that double knot right there as a stop knot. Now I'm going to form a loop about that big. Okay, Doesn't have to be that big, but you get an idea. Pretty good size loop. Pinching my finger, that's the marking of it. I'm now going to tie another simple overhand. Do that again. Now I've got a knot there. So you have your toggle, 8 inches, a knot. Pull the two knots together. That makes your loop. Now I'm going to cut it off at this bottom knot. Now, putting those two knots together, just like that, I'm going to do an overhand knot, just wrap it around the finger, and go back through that loop, cinching it down toward the knots. Pull everything tight. Now, you have a woodsman's Prusik now, because you have the loop that you're going to go around the ridge line 3 times like a Prusik knot, and you're going to cinch that up, and now you'll have that in this loop, this length. The length, like I just showed you, you form a loop, stick it through the grommet, then take this piece and come over the top and go through. This locks it when you pull it tight. See, so it can't come back through that loop. This long toggle locks it. So, now I've got my 2 woodsman's Prusik, my 20-foot ridge line, my 4 stakes, my trash can liner, and my reusable tarp. I'm going to start by rolling up about the bottom 3 inches of the tarp into a wad, and then rolling that. Gives me something a little more solid to roll. Being very careful to get the air out of it. Now, this garbage liner, big heavy garbage bag, construction type bin liner they call it, has a lot of advantages. One, it can be turned into additional rain gear. You know how to do that. It can also be filled full of leaves and turned into a leaf tick mattress to get me off of some wet ground, so that this tarp can keep me from being wet and cold from the top, and the bag can keep me insulated from the bottom. It can also be just opened up and used as a vapor barrier on the ground by itself, or to collect other materials, etc. that I need. Now, this entire set don't weigh 1.25 pounds, I bet you. It, you know, a large drink from McDonald's feels heavier. That ought to tell you something. Just keep rolling it up. Notice that I put the bag in so it started at this end, so it's disappearing toward this end. Now when I get up here about this last foot, now's when I'm going to take my 2 Prusiks and put them in, just like that. 1 roll, 1 tent stake, 1 roll, alternating the cord I got on it, the other end, 1 roll, 1 roll, and finally the last one, 1 roll. Now, there's the whole shelter. I've got this handy little bag I made up with a cord on it. I'm going to take my ridge line and put it in the bottom. Then I'm going to slide this into it. Just like that. Pushing everything down pat and cinching it up. Then taking the cord and stuffing it back down in the hole. This makes for a very compact emergency shelter. Now, that's it. I don't, like I said, I haven't actually weighed it, but I'm honest, guys. One of them large drinks from McDonald's weighs more than this. This is very handy, and I had it originally strapped to the bottom of my haversack. It can be thrown easily into many places. It's not actually too encumbersome to stick in the top of a cargo pocket if you had to. But with that, I got an emergency shelter or a standalone shelter for various times of the year. Now here in my beloved South, 8 or so months of the year, it's warm is the big problem, not cold and wet. So this survival blanket can be wrapped around me. It can be used in several ways. The shiny side out will be a heat reflector. Very necessary down here in my South when that sun's beating down on you and I need some shade. It can also be used on the inside as a heat reflector on a cold night to catch those ambient rays of my fire and reflect them back at my back. But these do deteriorate over time. So what I recommend you do is every year or so, get a new one. Check your old one, and when it starts showing signs of turn it into a ground cloth. Put it in the top of your haversack for that pull out, throw down in the mud, and etc. They're not expensive. They're under 10 bucks most of the time. And so they're good to rotate through. I hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Please leave any questions or comments. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft. Wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.